I beat the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. We went for 4 years. I fought them for 4 years through them closing my stores and opening back up, and then ultimately paying them $1 million fine and a revocation of my license. They called in the federal government. And the federal government, I fought them until 2020, even after I sold them, man. And
they wanted their check.
They wanted their pound of flesh. And I beat them. Something that I don't know that you know is when Mississippi passed the medical cannabis law in 2020, I was part of that movement and opened a cannabis company. I had 3 dispensaries, Tupelo, Starkville, and Gulfport, Greenwise Cannabis Company. Built those up and ran them for about a year. Got them all scalable, got the policies, the procedures, and then I sold them. So
smart guy.
Yeah. So, Mississippi has, a good medical cannabis law. And I think that, the law will be fine and the participants will eventually, the competition will kind of weed out.
It was a long process though, right? Wasn't you red lighted for a while?
It was.
Did you get nervous during that time?
Dude,
I'm super honored you're here. You sound like a guy that's my speed. Michael Gray, the CEO. And I ain't asked you yet. I think you own several businesses.
So, Paul, thanks for having me.
Dude,
first of all,
my pleasure.
Glad to be here. In just a couple minutes, we chatted.
We're going to run the batteries down. I already feel
Let's go. Let's go. So, man, I worked for UPS for 10 years, kind of as a kid from 18 to 28. I was working at night, realized I wanted a family. And just to be honest, dude, I work all night long and every morning I drive home with a beer between my legs, and the oncoming traffic, they didn't work for UPS. Like they did something, and so I just talked to my boss and I'm like, man, I think I want to, I'm going to quit. And he asked me, would I give him 100% until I quit? And I'm like, absolutely, And so anyway, so that's kind of how that went down. And I was raised by my grandmother. And, I was raised to get one job, worked there for 35 years, 40 years at Bell South.
You happy with what you got?
Yeah, and retire. And that was my plan. But working at night, I slept all day, had a window unit and foil on the windows, so I could get some good sleep during the day.
Yeah.
But anyways, went to work for a finance company and learned lending and collecting. UPS had taught me systems, policies, procedures. My grandmother had taught me integrity, work ethic. So got in the finance company, I learned lending and collecting. And then if you remember back in the 90s, when the payday loan places, they call them check cash and payday loan, they started popping up everywhere. And just because I was in that space, I checked out the law, had a friend of mine that worked for a title lender, payday loan company, called me, said, man, look, you need to look at this model. And I did. And then 1999, I opened my first check cash and payday loan store. And man, I was just like everybody else, man. I turned the key in the morning. I turned the key in the afternoon. And
you did that in Jackson?
Canton. First one in Canton. And then over the next 17, 20 years, opened up 52 of them in 3 states, had an internet store, 250 employees, and sold them in 2017.
Sweet.
So then since then, I bought some UPS stores, opened some from scratch, opened one from scratch, bought some, and just kind of diversified along the way into some strip centers, some buildings, mini storage. But, something that I don't know that you know is when Mississippi passed the medical cannabis law in 2020, I was part of that movement and opened a cannabis company. I had 3 dispensaries, Tupelo, Starkville, and Gulfport, Greenwise Cannabis Company. Built those up and ran them for about a year, got them all scalable, got the policies, the procedures, and then I sold them. So
smart guy.
Yeah. So, Mississippi has, a good medical cannabis law. And I think that, the law will be fine and the participants will eventually, the competition will kind of weed out.
It was a long process though, right? Wasn't you red lighted for a while?
It was.
Did you get nervous during that time?
I really didn't get nervous because I had other stuff going on. And I knew that if it happened, I was in the driver's seat to get the locations opened. And just some business moves that I had made that a lot of people won't make is I had already secured the locations and I was paying rent. Now, I was paying a reduced amount of rent, but if the law ever did pass, which it did, I was kind of in the driver's seat to open those locations,
That's awesome.
you know.
So, like, when we go back to like the 52 stores you had, like, how quick were you opening them up? Was you franchising them, or was you the sole owner of all those stores?
So I was, you know, what I always say is I had no brother-in-laws, in-laws, outlaws, or ex-laws or bankers. Um, you know, I would say that up until 1999, up until, you know, I was 28, 29, 30 years old, man, I was like everybody else, dude. I had, I was in debt. I had credit cards, car note. You know, I lived like everybody else, man.
Right.
What I found a dude that kind of changed the way that I thought about money, and it was Dave Ramsey.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, dude, it was Dave Ramsey, you know, and he said, if you will live like no one else, then later you can live like no one else. And if you will treat money like God and grandma, you know, you can live a peaceful life. And I just took that to heart, man, you know, and I opened up my first check cashing joint and I borrowed $30,000 from Scotty Parrish at Trustmark. And that was the last money I've borrowed.
Wow.
So I opened one and then I opened another. And then about a year later, I opened another and they started making money and I didn't spend any of it. Man, I mean,
That's your ticket right there.
I didn't spend any of it, man. I didn't go get the new car. I mean, I was driving a beater, you know, which was fine, man. I didn't go get the new car. I didn't go get the new
Did
house.
you want to?
You know, I had been so strapped by debt up until I was 30 years old that I saw the light at the end of the tunnel and it wasn't a train and I didn't want it. Like I didn't want the debt. So no, I didn't want to grow outside my means. You know, I wanted controlled growth, growth that I could pay for, growth that I could control. And I bought my buildings as I went.
Wow.
Yeah. Now these were downtown on the square. These weren't
Didn't have to be very big either.
yeah, and they
huh?
weren't expensive. You know, it wasn't expensive. But I'd buy the building 1 year. I bought a building in Lexington 1 year, and I couldn't afford to build it out till the next year, which was fine, man. I owned it. Still to this day, own it. So I expanded kind of slow at first, and then I realized the value of buying competitors.
Oh, yeah.
So there came a time to where I was approached by maybe I call them mom and pops, but you know, because that's all I was at the time, right? But I got approached by someone that maybe wasn't making money, or they didn't want to do it anymore, or it wasn't what they thought, you know. So I would buy that location. I bought one in Hazelhurst and expanded, and that's when the light bulb kind of went on that like growing my company through acquisitions makes more sense. I can go in there and organically choose the location, build it out, and start to look for customers and try to attract customers organically. And that does work. That's a good mix to have. But what I realized was that I could go into their file cabinets and I could reactivate their paid out customers, customers that maybe didn't do business with them, or maybe customers they didn't do business with, and I could reactivate those customers. And that's when the light bulb kind of went off. And so then I started buying mom and pops. Then eventually, after a couple of years, I was able to buy my first small company. I bought 5 stores, and they were in the Golden Triangle, Starkville, Columbus. And, you know, and each time that I made that little move, I gained so much knowledge. It was just little nuggets of information. You know, it's just little pieces that were paving the way.
And you probably totally understood them because you were taking action. Wasn't theory.
It wasn't theory, you know, and man, I've got the scars, dude. Like, you know, I'm not telling you or anyone else about business from the comfort of my check as a professor.
Right.
You know, stuff that I think might work. Man, I've got the scars. I've been sued. You know, I've been attacked by the federal government, the state government. You know, I've been in the trenches. So the stuff that I talk about is proven, real world, you know, blood, sweat, and tears.
When you go back to like the first store you ever opened, was it just like a gut feeling you had? Because a lot of people, I think, struggle with that. Just going back and opening the very first store, or the dream they have and they stall on it for so many years. Like, what pushed you to actually take action on your very first one?
It was a dream. It was a gut feeling. I always wanted to be my own boss. I always wanted to work for myself. And so I couldn't get really happy working for other people. I mean, I had a 10-year job that I worked at night and I excelled, and I quit. And then I was in the finance business, and I'd actually gone through a couple of different employers. So I decided I wanted to work for a guy just like myself. Why not? I mean, that's kind of how the decision was made. And I would wake up at night like anyone else, and I would write a name down on the napkin beside, or a notepad beside the bed. I'd write down my thoughts, my
I don't
names.
think just anyone else does that, man.
It
Most
seemed
people don't know what they want. They won't take the time to write it down. It's silly.
well, it seemed natural to me.
I mean, me and my wife were doing it at 3 a.m. this morning, and now that I think about it, I still don't think she answered me. But we're drinking coffee, and I said, "What do you really want?"
Hmm.
So I can be in alignment with you. You be in alignment with me. I don't care how silly it sounds.
Yeah.
But then we go, what do we do as humans? I'm changing this, but like we start focusing on like what has to happen for me to get that, or the negative opposition, and then that's operating out of lack. But like we're here at 3 a.m. to talk in abundance and talk about what we really want, that way we can break it down and obtain it and be in accordance with each other. Cause I mean, even with our spouses, most of the time, I don't think we know what each other wants.
No, dude, I sit here at 58 years old in front of you, Paul, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I really am clear on what I want.
But I think you're ever expanding. I mean, I'm already listening to just a snippet of your story, and you're always seeking to be more and better. And we'll get into the teaching and coaching side of it. But like, if you look back to the Bible, I've said that several times. People didn't retire; they just switched and transitioned into different roles. Like they become teachers and all. And look at King Solomon, the richest man of all. People don't want to admit it, but he sold his knowledge and wisdom. Other kings traveled to him and gave him gold and riches to get his knowledge to take back and implement in their kingdoms. So that's how he became the richest in the world. He was a coach. Ain't that crazy?
Well, it really is, and I'm at a point now to where I can value that, and I would be telling you wrong if I told you that I had those thoughts when I was 30 years old. It was real. It was just, what can
Did
I
you
do?
really, when you started, did you really open your businesses to serve people and give them value, or did you have dollar signs in your eyes? Because I'm just now transitioning out of that myself. Not trying to like put you on a spot, but
Yeah,
like
no.
I'm just now understanding what service and value really is.
So I think that, to answer the question real kind of specific, is I needed to make a living, but the mission at All American Check Cashing was stop conducting transactions and start creating relationships. So the reason that we were so successful was because we looked at our customers as almost as a second family. And everyone that I hired had that feeling. We were small town Mississippi people, man.
Right.
And we cared about each other. Now, we were in the finance business and we needed to collect our money. So we were firm but fair, but we understood that bad things happen to good people. And I think one of the things early on is I felt as though I was responsible for 250 car notes. I was responsible for 250 house notes.
That's deep.
I always knew that I wouldn't be anybody without my employees, and they really showed up. And our company was a company of leaders, and I invested in them. I don't think, Paul, that I knew what my mission was at the time I was doing it as deep as what you're talking to me now, which is why I'm on the path to become a coach to give back. I've been given more than I deserve, and it's time. It's time to give back. I found value in coaches early on, and that's part of my story. I didn't just build those locations just off the knowledge in my head. I was raised by my grandmother, but I found value in coaches. And I used to be in the mastermind groups and the inner circles. And so those guys that were in their 50s and 60s that had been there, done that, they bled their knowledge into me, and they helped me succeed and they helped me overcome. So now that's what I want to be for other people. And what you and I are talking about, the check cash and the UPS stores, the cannabis, those are all success stories, but that's what I now have to give back.
Yeah, that was your journey.
Yeah. And so now I'm on a real, I'm on a real commitment. I'm on a real journey, to use that word, to find out where I fit in and to find out what my purpose is. I want to leave a legacy. And I'm getting to that age, man, to where my kids are now grown. I just went through a pretty tough divorce. And so, I've got a whole new future in front of me that's new, that's bright, and I don't want to live it selfishly.
That's deep. So like you talking about like all your stores and your employees built these relationships. That's something I struggle with, and maybe you could help me, but like you can't buy culture. So like how did you implement like teaching other people that other than yourself, because nobody can do it like us, but like to teach Mary that runs this store and Tom that runs this store to when people's coming in to borrow money, like literally saying, "Hey, man, I love you, I love you, I love you. How can I really serve this person?" And ask them the questions and get them the help they need financially. Like, is that a system you built also to build that culture, or can you explain that a little
Yeah,
more? Because that's something I struggle
that's
with.
actually a great question, and we 100% we had it, and I think that it was instilled by me, and everyone bought into that mission. I think generally that people are good, and I think generally people want to be good. And so if you just nurture that side of them a little bit, if you invest in them, and if you give them the tools, the policies, the procedures, the systems, then they'll perform when the time comes. And we were a big family. People really find it hard to understand um, just how connected we were as employees, as a culture, as a company. And we did all kinds of fun stuff, which I think built that. For instance, we gave away, everyone in the company got a Thanksgiving turkey. Everyone got a turkey. Even when, to the day I quit, now employers were giving out maybe a gift card for 25 bucks for you to go get your own turkey from Walmart. We had a guy that smoked the turkeys and everyone got a turkey. Everyone got a ham at Christmas. And we would deliver those. The supervisors, the home office staff would deliver those to the employees, almost kind of like in a servant position, if you will. And our employees felt that. The store managers felt that. And they were, it was almost like, I can't come up with the right word, but they felt like they had the power. They were empowered, if you will, to carry on that culture into the manager trainees and then into our customers. And our customers felt it. So yes, and we did extensive Christmas parties, awards banquets, recognition for the employees, manager of the year, store of the year.
I just got to say, shout out the man bought his better half and personal assistant with him. So I've been waiting on this to happen.
Yeah,
I had another microphone, bro. We could have pulled her up, but
she's been there a long time, man. She's seen a lot of stuff go down.
that's good.
So, yeah.
She ain't run away yet, man. She probably not.
No. We said like about 16 years, working for me and being around and seeing the culture. And
Was she in the finance company as well?
yeah. Mandy has a law degree, but she's a compliance director. And Mandy is extremely smart in legal, FinCEN, financial crimes type stuff, regulatory and compliance, federal, state.
Does she portray the message for you sometimes better than you can?
I think that she does, yes. I also believe that a lot of other people did, but Mandy's a Christian. She's the better part of me at times. She builds me up. She stands behind me when
Ain't it
times are
so
tough.
much nicer when you surrender to that? Because I'm just finding that, and my wife is that. And the reason I ask for the relationships wise is because sometimes I feel like I want it more for my people than they do themselves. And I come in with that passion and I burn hot, but like the room's majority females, and they're just like, "Phew." And
Yeah.
then I'm like, man, I suck. I'm not doing this right. But it's just, I think I'm the wrong messenger sometimes. I'm the visionary, and maybe I'm not the messenger for those particular people who I do cherish, and I couldn't run my business without them. But like my wife or a Miranda that works for me can come in and they've literally just been like, "Hey, man, just stay away. Like, we got you. Trust that we're going to say it." And,
Yeah.
and then to be received much better from us. And like, and then I'm like, man, what's wrong with me? But then I think God's gearing me up, like as He is you. Just like, dude, you're about to take on the whole world, brother.
I
Get
to-
out of that room.
well,
And,
I totally feel that. I've been through some really dark times lately, and I feel like that's when character is made.
yeah,
That's when strength is given, and that's when a real man is forged.
yeah.
You know,
Because like you've probably done like me. This is a quick little analogy. It's like you're on top of the mountain, and now you got this new vision that you want to bring the whole world with when it comes to the coaching and teaching. So then you got to come off that mountain and go back into that valley,
yes,
and nothing grows on the mountaintop. So you got to come back in the fertile soil,
that's right. That's right.
get a little lost, be unclear for a little while, and then figure out how to bring everybody with you back up that mountain again.
And that's where I'm struggling, and it hurts, man.
Yeah.
You talk about a kick in the teeth. You talk about a
Especially when
a
you're
shot at
helping
your pride.
another person like succeed in life, and then you're like, man, the next morning you wake up and you may be a little confused or lost.
Oh, all the time, and you got to hide it sometimes.
Right.
Because if you become too open, too vulnerable, then people might, second
Yeah.
guess you. But I will say that the people that now surround me, I can be that vulnerable. I can be that open. I can say I don't have the answers, and they don't get nervous that they got to go find somewhere else to get a paycheck. They're like, you're going to figure it out. Like,
Right.
we know that you've got it. We know it's going to happen. We know you're going to figure it out.
So getting back on the finance story, it's like you started acquiring other finance companies.
Mhm.
Were you putting them all? Was you changing the names?
Yes. So what I had was, so when I would go in, within just a few days, we would put our systems, policies, and procedures in play. The counters, the computer system, the paint, the doors, the sign. We had subcontractors that worked just for us, and they would go in, they would change everything.
All right, I'm gonna stop you right there. So just like people form bad habits, so do businesses.
Sure.
Did you keep the previous staff on board? Because
If
they got their habits of the old entity, and now you're coming in with these new systems, which are new good habits. A lot
yeah,
of people don't want that new habit. They want to, they want to go eat the donut. They don't want to eat grilled chicken.
we would give that opportunity. We would our HR department would get a complete file, and we would look at their resume, we'd look at their credentials.
You'd basically rehire them if they
Yeah, we
want
would.
re-interview.
And we would give them an opportunity to stay with us and to grow with us. I would say that probably only about 20 to 30% at the most were able to live in our culture the way that
I think that's something like even people like myself, man, you don't want to hear that because that's what you fear the most is like, well, then how do I find the people all of a sudden? Because I've renovated the store, I'm ready to open, and now I just lost 70% of the staff.
yeah.
What are you doing then?
Well, it was I'll tell you, when we were smaller, it stretched everyone thin. If just say, I'm just making this up, but just say I had 6 stores and I bought 2. And these 6 are properly staffed, and now I've got 2 that just clear house.
Would you start shooting them over?
I'd have to, But then as you get larger, it's almost like a company that's really big is easier to run than
Right.
than a startup, man.
Because you're in
Because you got
scavenger mode.
resources.
Right.
And in a startup mode, everyone has to wear a different hat. Today I'm the HR, now I'm marketing,
Focus starts. Yeah.
and that's what we're going through right now. Is that like Mandy wears so many hats right now,
Dude, I got it going on too.
and my secretary, she's my office manager, she's my secretary, she's my girl Friday. I mean, she's my everything. She does HR stuff for us, she does light accounting, if you will, and she just does it all. She's been with me. Sherry's been with me for 16, 17 years.
I think that's the stuff people, you're being vulnerable, but it's also real life. I've hired a lot of coaches to help me structure my business and build the systems that, most people get on Chat GPT and say, hey, I need a position agreement for an office manager. I'm a finance company. I do this, this, this. If you know how to prompt it, it'll give you a beautiful little position agreement.
I'm sorry.
But it may not be anything you're capable of actually doing because you've never done it. And I found that a lot of coaches that I've hired can tell me what to do, but then you got that good old I word, you got to go implement it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it gets tough because half of them probably never have really went in where, this position agreement ain't what I've been doing. So now, you want me to change?
That's right. And I see a lot of that with the people that that I work with, or the people that want to work with me. The fact that they've got to implement. They got to go out and they got to implement and make the changes.
Do you think that's the scariest parts, like losing their crew for the new vision and the new roles, the new mission?
I don't think it's losing their crew as much as I think that we as humans look at the short term. We don't look at the long term.
Mm,
So when I go in and talk to someone, I had somebody explain this. They want to hear about the vacation, but not the plane ride.
yep.
They
Alex Ramosi, I believe. You
Yeah,
sell them Hawaii. You don't talk about TSA. You don't talk about the
right.
flight that's bumpy or the layovers.
And that's the hurdle that I'm having, to get people over is that, this is the why, this is what we want, but we do have to do some of this to get there. And that's kind of the hurdle.
Like you're aware that you got to go through a valley, and you're like, cool. And then you're in the valley, and you're like, is this what it feels like?
Right. That's right.
You know,
And a
does
lot
this
of,
ever end? And then I think that's why a morning routine for me is so important, because I do get grounded every morning, and I get back aligned with the source and the why. And then, I go from the source, which I believe is God, to my mind and thoughts. And then I get those thoughts programmed in my subconscious, and then my subconscious believes it. So then I take my action and I get my results. So I constantly
100%.
have to align with that method, which I teach in my course every morning, even as I teach it to other people. I mean, it never ends. It's an infinite game. It's getting in aligned every day. Like you fail your way to the moon on a rocket, it's constantly getting off course. But every day you need to get back on course.
Absolutely. And what you're saying is a fundamental to success.
Right. And it's the small things.
It's the small things, dude.
Every day you don't quit, because when you do have success, you're like, oh man, I'm gonna quit doing this for a little while and ride the wave. And then all of a sudden you find
now you got to double down.
Now you're downward spiraling.
Right. That's exactly right, man.
Right. I love that. So how long did it take you to acquire 52 stores? Was it 52?
It was 52.
I don't want to shortchange you none.
Oh yeah. No. So started in 99, sold in 17. And I think maybe by about 14, I had them. So about 15 years of control.
Was you thinking
growth.
about exiting them the whole time, or is that something as you got older and wiser and more knowledge, it's like, hey man, I really need to get this to where somebody would buy it and could buy it and implement what I was doing?
No, I rode the train right to the scene of the wreck. Honestly, now hindsight's always 2020. The very first thing that I start talking to people about is what's your exit strategy? How do you want to get
Whether
out?
you want to or not.
Whether you want to, man. How are you going to get out?
Right.
What makes you happy? And I didn't know anything about an exit strategy. Man, I was just rocking on, buying more stores, hiring more people, and
did you ever find that you were unconscious about all of the talented, like building the relationships, that you were just unconscious? That's just who you were. Your grandma raised you this way, and then all of a sudden, like, dude, this is what I've been doing, and now I got to get this out of my head on paper so Jimmy can do this over in Alabama.
Dude, 150%.
I think people talk about this.
Man, I just got interviewed by a guy named Brian Tolley, Tolle, I believe it was, and he's writing a book. And we had an interview last week, and it's called something like Growing Through Acquisitions, Why the Wealthy Favor It, or The Secret the Wealthy Favor. Growing Through Acquisitions, something like that. And we just had the same conversation. He's like, my book is exactly what you did. Did you know you were doing that when you were doing it? And I'm like, no, man.
You're unconscious competent.
I just knew what had to happen.
Now you're actualizing it so you can transcend it to other people.
100%.
That's what you're doing.
That's what I feel like.
Because most people, that's why their kids don't follow in their footsteps, because they're unconscious, even though they're very successful, as to why they're actually successful, so they can't teach anybody else.
Right.
They're just talented. They're Booby Miles on Friday Night Lights,
Yep.
I don't show up to practice. I don't have to, but then your kids don't work for you. They go build a legacy for another man.
Right.
So that's one thing that's important with me, having 4 kids under 4. That's what we talked a lot about this morning, is like actually being intentional from now forward with our kids, so they do want to be a part of our legacy. Not that I'm pushing that on them, but I think if we do it the right way, they will want to.
They will.
And we'll turn the reins over to them to go with their huge visions. And they're starting where we're figuring it out.
And I feel like I lived 15 years unconsciously, if you want to know the truth.
Same. I just woke up 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I just was blowing and going. I was always present.
Hard work.
Yeah. It was just, yeah. And I found value in building, and I was always present, but I probably wasn't as conscious as I am now, and I value stuff more. I've lost stuff along the way. I've had a harder track than I would have thought that it would have been because of the success that I achieved early on. And so now I value relationships more. I value my time more. I value my connection with God more. I value my gratitude and my morning routine that I wish I did every day. So I'm in a really cool place of reflection, but also of continued building, but now building with purpose and building with consciousness.
Well, you said a word earlier, very beginning, you said fair. And I think that we get lost in that as business owners or salespeople or whatever. Any way you're earning money, it's like, are you really thinking about this as fairness? Like, I'm not trying to win everything on this one transaction. I want to have a transaction with this person till the end of time. So, like, what is fair to where they're happy and I'm happy? Dude, I see so many people literally post pictures selling something. And they don't say, I got you, but it's like,
They mean it.
another one. Won this one, got this one. I'm like, bro, that's so transactional and not a fair. You just told me everything.
There's enough money to go around, Paul. There's enough money for me. There's enough money for you. There's enough money for everybody,
I
man.
had to tell somebody that yesterday because they
enough.
didn't understand that. I said, well, do you hold your breath by me? They were like, no. I was like, well, there's enough breath for everybody. There's enough money. You'll never gain riches by taking from somebody wealthier. And a lot of people cannot understand that. From abundance he gives, and still abundance remained.
100%.
They need to read that over and over again. Like, it's here. You just got to create it. The best way of doing everything hasn't been thought of.
No.
I mean, this was here when old Jesus was walking around, but we haven't gathered the wisdom and knowledge and these resources that made this phone were here then.
Of course.
And who knows, with the pyramids, they may have been smarter than us at some point.
I think they were.
That's another deep dive you can go down, but that's really cool. So I want to get back to, like, you've done so much more than the finance companies, but when you got it to 52 stores, I mean, you exited in 17?
Yeah, but look, man, I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you that, I drove the train all the way to the scene of the wreck. I got in legislative trouble with the Mississippi Department of Banking.
Love it. Let's go there.
Oh, man, it was fun. It was big times.
Were they always after you being a check cash in place?
No, it was, I actually had a good relationship with them. And I got a death sentence for a jaywalking ticket. I did have some stuff in my business that was that could have been cleaned up. I never said that from the beginning that I didn't. However, I always had a good working relationship. But what happened was the commissioner resigned. They got an in-house attorney, and then one of the examiners that had never had a good relationship with me. Anyways, he got it out for me, and we went for 4 years. I fought him for 4 years. Through them closing my stores and opening back up, and then ultimately paying them $1 million fine and a revocation of my license. Meanwhile, they called in the federal government, and the federal government, I fought them until 2020.
Even after you sold them?
Even after I sold them, man. And
they wanted their check.
They wanted their pound of flesh. I don't have enough money to make the federal government happy. They wanted their pound of flesh, and I beat them. I beat the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It took me 8 years to fight them, to beat them, but I beat them.
Did that take some years off your life?
Man, I would like to say that it did bother me, and I'm sure it was a lot of stress, but I think that just as a businessman, the stress that we do encounter day to day, I think that was just part of it. What it did do is it made me become more aloof of our federal government. I didn't deserve what came my way. I've seen other companies, I've seen other bad actors get way less, but also it made me appreciate what I have more.
Well, think about what you can teach now.
Yeah. And that's what, when I said early on that my scars are real, and that's what I mean is, through those battles, you learn how to stay compliant. I just exited the medical cannabis business and had a great relationship with the Department of Health and with the ABC agents in Mississippi. And, I value compliance. I value regulation. It's just that when you've got some, agency and you've got a head of an agent that's out after you, man, they can do a lot of damage.
So you exited it. Did you get what you wanted for it, or was you just kind of tired of doing it?
No, I sold in a suppressed environment. My company was under scrutiny, and so I probably didn't get about 20% of what it was actually worth.
Wow. Did
Yeah.
one company acquire all 50?
One company got all of them, and they still to this day have them, and about 30% of my employees still work for them. 100% of my look, man, it was a good deal for the company that bought me. It was a good deal for my employees, and to be quite frank, it had to be as good of a deal for me as it was going to be because it was what it was. I mean, they had me by my throat at that point in time, and I was down for the count. So it worked for my employees, and it worked for the company that bought me. And I'm okay with that. It was a lot of experience, and I was able to move on past that.
Did you make any money in the end?
Yeah, I did.
So how did you set yourself up on that? Did you take it all at one time? How did you avoid taxes at all?
No, I didn't avoid taxes. Man, I needed to get out, and the company that bought me was able just to write me a check.
And you said you still own some of the stores to this day. So do you hold the real estate for a lot of them?
do.
And they pay you rent?
I do.
That's beautiful, huh?
Yeah, it works perfect. And that's something else that I would encourage, when I talk to brick and mortar guys, when I talk to business owners, one of the things I say is, look, man, if you can afford to buy your real estate.
I made a video on that yesterday.
Yeah. And, and now what we're seeing now is we're seeing a lot of the older guys wanting to retire. And I'm talking the 60s and the 70-year-old guys. They may have a strip center. They may have a nice building. They don't want a $2 million, $3 million, $4 million check. A lot of them will do an owner finance deal where you go in there and give him $400,000 or $500,000, $600,000 down, and just say the center might make $40,000 a month, and give the man $35,000, $40,000 a month, and you're an owner.
See, that's where I got to get fit in because I got that vehicle that's an anchor tenant. So if you got 20,000 square foot of real estate and it's vacant, well, man, it's only worth this because you got this big vacancy. If you could come in and get that,
that's right.
Then I got that vehicle that can come in and say,
You
hey,
do.
I'm an anchor tenant.
In the fitness centers.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's something I'm interested in doing. And I think it's a big long-term move for me. And, acquiring through seller finance is beautiful because interest rates suck. And then these guys, if they do take the lump sum, then they own capital gains.
That's right.
So it's really a win-win
It's a
for
win-win.
everybody if
It's
they
a win-win.
understand it.
Yeah. And I've got several under contract right now. Well, not under contract; they're closed. I mean, I have a couple buildings right now. I've paid off a couple in the same manner, and it's a win-win. And then, like you said, sometimes people won't understand. They're like, "Oh no, I won't get my money, and I'm going to lose my property." That's not it at all.
And you just put a performance contract in place to where, hey man, if we don't perform, yours.
You get your building back.
I'm dumping some money in it immediately, so it's going to be worth more money.
And there's things that you would not want to owner finance, like you wouldn't want to owner finance a boat, because they'll tear the boat up and then they'll just give it back to you. But there are things, and there's certain businesses that may not be attractive to an owner finance, but a building is a great tool for an owner to sell in an owner finance environment. And it's a great thing for a young person or anyone to pick up, especially if what you're able to pay the owner is already being floated. And then you can raise your rents and you could do certain things. I bought a mini storage, and it was $3,500 a month. And I gave him, I don't know, maybe about $100,000 down. And I immediately went in and I put in security fence, security cameras, gravel, and lighting. Spent about $50,000, but I tripled the rental rates. Once it became a safe place for people's belongings, they would pay more in rent. So he was getting $3,500 a month, and that's what he wanted for his payment, $3,500 a month for say 60 months or whatever it was. I went in there, and within 8 months, I had it to $10,000.
A lot of people do that and just freaking wholesale it too.
Yeah, that's right. I could have at that point, I could have flipped it. With a little bit of history on that 10,000, you can 10x that money to a national storage facility. I'm a buy and hold kind of guy, but yes, I could have gone in there, made those improvements, and then flipped it.
Yeah. And a lot of people that don't have money don't realize they can do that to get their sum of money to where they could acquire something and hold it.
That's right.
Because that's me. If I bought something, I'd want to hold it. I don't necessarily want to flip it for short-term gains. But yeah, dude, that's stuff I'm learning about that you hear it first, and you're like, there's no way that's true. Who would sell or finance something? But then you sell something and pay that capital gains one time, or it may be an older person that maybe they don't have any family to leave anything to.
That's right.
So it's like, hey, yeah, I'd sell or finance it. I don't need the money. I definitely don't want to pay it in taxes, and I'd rather make 40 grand a month and
Yeah.
not worry about anything. You turn them into the bank.
100%, man.
Hey, man, stop being a landlord and become the bank,
And it's a
let me
win-win.
do that.
And it's a win-win for everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think you got to approach it like that. I need to get better at that. I need to get back out there and do that because I love that type of stuff.
A lot of it's available now.
Yeah. And they say the biggest transfer of wealth is coming because this generation that has acquired all these things don't have anybody to leave it to, and they don't know how to sell their business.
That's what Brian was saying in the book that we were talking about earlier, is that more businesses are set to be sold in the next 10 years.
I forget how many trillion it is, but it's the biggest transfer of wealth ever coming
fixing to
ahead
happen.
because these businesses don't have systems. They're not sellable because they don't know what they're worth.
That's right.
And so, there's nobody to inherit it. Their kids don't want it.
That's exactly
They're all
right.
taking a different route, so they're just going to close them.
Yep.
And so, like, if you know how to go in there and negotiate, they can continue marching forward, and so can you. So I like you ever heard of old Dan Pena?
I hadn't heard of Dan.
He's like the $1 trillion man. He's like 80-something years old, tough as nails.
Nice.
He's got a dirty mouth, but man, he fires me up. But he started a coaching business called QLA. He'll bring you to his castle. I mean, he makes you box.
I don't know
You're
how
gonna you got to wear a suit every day, but literally in 7 days, he'll transform you more than Navy SEALs, and he will break you down. But like, he's got mentees that come out trillionaires and billionaires.
Nice.
But he literally, that's his play though, is going in and how he guarantees you can walk in any bank at any time and leave with $50,000 with this I think it's 4 questions that if you know how to ask them and go in there, you will leave with the money.
Nice.
But he also teaches you how to go in and, get seller finance and then acquire all these businesses with no money. Like you do not spend $1.
That's right.
But you go in and I teach you how to acquire them, and they win and you win. So I think that's really neat, but I think most people don't believe that's true.
It's legit. It is legit. And if you become a student, and I think a lot of people might, sit here and listen to me and you and go, man, I could never achieve that. Man, I barely got out of high school, no college, and it's just determination. It's just deciding that you're going to do it and then failing your way to success. I think a lot of times we look at failures as the end.
Right.
And, there's a book out there, I forget who wrote it, called Fail Up. And anybody that's been in the trenches knows that that you fail your way to success. And I forget the number of shots, but Michael Jordan says, I'm remembered for X number of game-winning shots, but what you don't remember is the number of game-losing shots.
Right.
I was just entrusted with the ball so many times. Same thing about maybe say Tiger Woods. People don't realize that Tiger Woods to this day probably has a putting coach and a driving coach. We just look at Tiger and think that he's such a great golfer, which he is, but he's getting coached on just from one person just on putting.
Yeah, I've heard that said before too. Like, if you don't have enough confidence, you can't be coached. And if you have too much confidence, you can't be coached. So you got to be right in the middle. And I've always been like that. I seek for somebody to beat me up about shoot holes in something I've done. I mean, starting this podcast, we had buddies in here. We'd finish the first 1 or 2, and I was like, dude, I already knew I sucked. And I mean, just scold. He'd have a notepad over there. You sucked here. You did this. You did that. And it hurt at first, but 12 hours goes by, and the next day you read it again. You're like, man, he's exactly right.
Yeah.
And I hope I'm always getting better.
Well,
I mean, this room we're in is an adjustment. We were doing it down in my office, which I thought was so cool, but lighting was just a pain. And then we'd tear my office apart every time we filmed. And so we made it. Me and Kenny got frustrated a couple weeks ago. It's just a real life story. And I was like, let's just go up there and try this. And we shot it up here last week, and I looked at the videos, and I was like, oh my gosh, what have we
Much
been
better.
doing? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it could be middle of the night, it could be noon, it doesn't matter. We control the light in here, which is what we designed it for. It's so funny, and then all of a sudden we don't use it. I thought it was boring up here, but when you look at it on camera, it's
It looks
super
perfect.
cool looking. I'll show you some shots, but yeah, just pivoting and adjusting. That's one thing. Like, success is nothing but repetition. And I forget the guy's name, so I'm not going to botch it. But I was watching him on YouTube last night, and he's like, it's not repetition, it's pivoting every time you mess up a little bit and then keep repeating. So it's not you're going to repeat the same thing over and over and over. You got to learn what little lesson and then adjust. And the next day, go again, learn a little lesson, then adjust. So it is repetition, but it's not repeating the same thing over and over again. That's insanity. So I think you got to have the nerve to pivot over and over and over again. And you can become lost feeling like that. Like, man, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
And so,
I
like,
remember the little bitty lessons that I was able to learn in the payday loan business. And here's one. I was on the downtown square in Hazelhurst, and I was paying $300 a month in rent, and the traffic was dying. The downtowns have died, and we've all created boulevards, with the Walmart. Once the Walmart goes up there
right.
and the Sonic, so anyways, guy called me and said, hey, look, got a space coming available beside Walmart, Cato, Shoe Show, those great retailers, he says, love to have you up there. And I said, well, how much? And he told me like $2,500, and I'm paying $300. And I'm like, well, there's no way. And he says, man, look, I promise you, if you get up there beside Walmart, you get up there on the boulevard, you get up there, you'll be able to make that rent. Your customer base will grow so much. And I'm like, I don't know. I said, let me think about it. So I did, and I just kind of did the math in my head. Like, okay, so my average customer transaction is this, my average fee income is this. I'm gonna have to add, it was something small, like 30 transactions a month. I'm like, surely I could do this, right?
Right. One a day.
So I made the move, leap of faith, and I went from this small $300 a month rent to $2,500 on the boulevard, and that became my second largest store in Hazelhurst for about the next 10 years. And that's when I realized location, location, location. And when you drive by and you see my competition, like Check Into Cash or National Cash Advance, or some of those national guys, they were always beside the Walmart or the high traffic areas paying the premium rent. And that's when the light bulb went off. I need to be doing that.
But you come from nothing, so you think, man, I got to stay at the bottom over here.
And the other thing, is I thought about this too early on. I'm like, okay, I'd go look in a city or a town. I'd go look and there'd be a payday lender on this side of town. And I'd be like, okay, well, I got to get way over here.
Right.
No, man, what my coaches taught me was
Look at the car
get
dealerships.
right beside them. Look at the restaurants. Look at the
Yep.
car
Let them
dealerships.
go to one area.
Yeah, get right there beside them. And that was the furthest thing from business knowledge that I thought that I knew. Of course, I tried to be the cheapest, when I got into business as well. And that's just a kiss of death.
Tell me about that, because when you start commoditizing your business, what have you found? Meaning you try to race your way to the bottom, being the cheapest.
It's exactly what's going to happen. You cannot, and I realized that early on. I was the cheapest in town, thinking that if I was the cheapest, I would bring more customers. And nothing could have been farther from the truth. I was giving my customers so much more. I was giving them good locations, well-lit locations, the best staff on the planet Earth, good business hours, and then I was still the cheapest. Ultimately, I became the most expensive, and I made up for that with the best staff on planet Earth, the best location, safety, and so, and I carried that on into my mini storage, my UPS stores, and my cannabis operation. You cannot be the cheapest and survive. You can't. And I see so many people that have an HVAC company and they want to, the national company does a call for 85, so we're going to do it for 50. You can't. You can't survive and make it like that.
You think it's because, like, the smaller mom and pops never took the time to know what their value was?
100%. And they're scared that if they raise their prices, they'll lose customers. It's just like when I went into the mini storage and almost doubled the prices. If I raise my prices 50%, I can lose 10% of my customers and I'm still making money.
Right.
You
They
know?
don't understand that.
No. And when I purchased the UPS stores, I went in and looked at the pricing. And the previous owners were struggling to make ends meet because their pricing wasn't congruent with the market.
Not to mention the people that do want it cheaper are always the biggest headache.
I wasn't going to go there, but no good deed goes unpunished.
Right.
You know? And yes, if you offer the cheapest, you're going to get those people that just always are banging on you for a deal. And yeah, they're the neediest people.
Just did it again through like just my app, giving it away for free. It's been nothing but a headache.
Yeah. Well, I'm guilty of it right now.
Because I'm a giver.
I am too.
Man, I hate charging.
I just want to talk. Like me and you talking business.
Right.
When you were telling me about the kind of the reason that you started your podcast, like this is what I thrive on is business conversation. Like I like this. I met a new friend today.
Right.
You know, and we're talking about good, wholesome stuff. I'll give that away. And so I end up talking to potential coaching clients, you know, and I'm just like, man, I'm not trying to charge you. I'm just here to help you, man, you know, and that'll just go on, you know, but I've got to get away from that and realize the value of what it is.
Well, when you have those first few people that are like, dude, I would pay you more, and they're the ones that really want to change and are looking for real help. And then you realize, like, man, I'm shortchanging this person that wants to pay me for all this free stuff that's driving me nuts. Now I'm becoming to the realization, it's like, dude, I'm doing this to myself right now.
That's right. That's
Seriously. Even if I sold something for $20 a month, which I do right now, like it literally takes almost 100 of them to make up for the one guy that wants to pay me.
That's right.
I could be giving him all my attention. And here to say, like, the people that want it for free they never show back up the next week because that's their mentality.
100%.
And I hate to be like that, but, you know, you got to be there for the people that want it, you know, and the people that want to change, because I'm not here to change anybody. I'm here to help people that want to change.
That's all you want to do, man. That's all I want to do.
Right.
Just shed a little light on it.
Yeah.
You know, and if there's something that if there's a nugget I can drop your way that helps you, good for us.
So currently, you've exited from the finance companies. You've exited from the cannabis companies. Did you have a good exit on them?
Yeah. They're still doing well. They're still open, and they're thriving.
I like how you say the positivity, like your employees benefited on your finance company, and then now you're saying the stores are still thriving. That shows your heart.
Yeah, and the employees are still there for the most part, I think. I don't know their day-to-day operations, but I know their rent check clears.
Oh yeah, because they're paying you rent.
Yeah.
And so now what are you into? Like, what are you holding now as far as like physical business?
So I still have the UPS stores and just kicking off All American Entrepreneurs coaching company and just getting that going.
So how long has that been on like your heart to do that?
Well, it's been on my heart for a really long time. I never paused to make it a reality. And quite frankly, it's really difficult for me. I'm more of a doer, if you will.
Yeah.
And I just want to get in and get it done. And to try to coach someone and lead someone and show them, especially if they own their own business, they're a little skeptical. It's a little bit, it's completely different for me. And so it's just getting up. It's been on my heart for a long time. And
you would get coached in the past, did you have something deep down inside of you? It's like, man, I want to be doing the same thing as I get coached. Because I do that.
Not only did I have that deep down inside, like I value the coaching, but what else I had in mind was I would like look around the room and I would see my competition and I would be like, dude, are y'all not soaking up what the guy's saying? You know, the questions that they would ask that would mean they weren't implementing anything. They weren't trying. They weren't making changes. And so I knew that I valued coaching in a little bit of a different way. I wasn't subscribing to coaches for the travel or just to say that I was in a group.
To go to Chicago for the weekend.
Negative,
party
man. No, not at all. Didn't care about any of that. It was, what am I going to learn from this? How am I going to benefit, you know, and how am I going to take this back to my people and the whole team grow from this?
That's one thing I became aware of is the last coaching call I did. I'm on a coaching program that's every quarter. I ain't going to tell you what I pay for this, but last quarter when I did the call, I almost thought they were picking on me because it was every time we got back from a break, Paul, 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 Paul. And finally I got off the call. I was in Seaside and I was like, my kids are all on the beach. And I was like, told my wife, I said, dang, bro, I almost think they're picking on me. And so like I went into the call yesterday and I was like, I'm going to be aware of that and see if they are. Well, it was Paul, 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 Paul again. And then I realized like, I think this because of what my calling is and how well I do answer and transact with the coaches on there that they see something in me.
Mhm.
And I get off the call and like people on the call are private messaging me through social media because they find me. And I'm like, man, this is definitely a sign that, I'm doing the right thing. And I don't know. I just kind of took that in heart. It's kind of a weird story. But one thing I became aware of on this call is how miserable these entrepreneurs are. And we're not talking about mom and pop entrepreneurs. We're talking about cream of the crop. I mean, some of these people hold the key to Antarctica. Like, you don't get to Antarctica without going through this person or, these people own huge companies, but they are just like, when they get asked, give me 3 wins from the last quarter, they melt.
Mhm.
They can't tell you what's going good. It's all negative. They literally sit there and hold their I'm watching them. They're holding their foreheads while we sit there and go in the breakout rooms and answer these questions. Miserable, man. And so,
Yep.
like, that's my callings. Like, yeah, the physical stuff that we can go implement's cool, but like, who are you as an entrepreneur? You know, I think you should be freaking in shape. I think your family should get your time. I think that, you should have a relationship with God. I think that, you should think a lot of
Mhm.
yourself and your self worth. Most of them are in the business working, they have no time. They're definitely not living out their purpose. They don't even know their purpose, I don't think.
Interesting.
You know,
Yeah.
but I'm aware of that now, and I started paying attention to it on this call. And I was like, I'm just going to see, like, with my 5 pillars that I've created, how many of these people could check the box and really know who they are to actualize themselves and really transcend themselves to the world and these huge staffs and crews that they have. And dude, I don't think any of them would. And I'm not judging them. It's just
Sure.
like, man, I think that's the source of the problem because I can go over here and pile some more on them, but if they're not in alignment with the source from the foundation up, like they're screwed or they're miserable.
Well, I think it goes back to a lot of people are just chasing the bag, number one, and then a lot of people don't have the autonomy. I go to work for autonomy. I value the time that I get to sit here and be here with you,
Same.
and I don't have anything else going on out there that needs me.
And you're free.
I'm free. And man, I get caught up a lot of times in not being grateful and not being thankful and woe is me,
Dude, that's me. I'm a victim.
Dude, I can get that way so easy.
I can get with Kenny over here, and like I'm like, dude, I'm a victim today.
Well, isn't it
I'm
funny?
not going down that hole, but like I got a lot of circumstances happening, bop, 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 and like I'm the leader here, and y'all should pity me because I got all these circumstances happening, and now y'all are seeking me for advice and leadership, and
Yeah.
I had to go chop the trail all night and come back and get you, and now I've got to bring you through what I just chopped, and and it's.
Yeah.
I find that the more I think like that and operate like that, the more I find law of attraction. It ain't just for the good, it's for the bad too.
And you point at Kenny, you point at K-Mac over there,
Right,
right?
K-Mac.
He's your man.
He just moonwalked across the floor over there.
And I would point at Mandy the same way. I would be like,
and then that transpires to her.
Yeah,
and
but
now she's probably a little beat up.
That's right.
And now you're just
Absolutely.
building a big gumbo of negativity.
That's exactly right. Hopefully, and it does happen most of the time, K-Mac catches you, I guarantee you, just like Mandy catches me and goes, we're not going down that rabbit hole, And then she'll build me back up. Look at what you have. Look at what has happened. Look at the good that's come from it. Yeah, it's a little tough right now. I ain't gonna lie.
Because
But
you're going to be called to a stage one day in some big city.
yeah,
They're going to pay you $50,000 to talk
Yeah.
for 1 hour.
that's right.
And you're going to have a terrible way getting there.
Yeah.
TSA is going to beat you up. You might be sick when you're in your hotel alone.
Mhm.
Then you're going to have 5,000 people that's there to get information from you. That's what I pretend every time I get like that. And I'm
Yep.
like, dude, suck it up. Because if
100%.
God's calling you to do that, don't think when you travel the world that everything's going to be rainbows.
It's
Like,
not. And there's going to be a lot of temptation.
right.
There's going to be a lot of obstacles. And it's going to come back to all the little bit of nuggets along the way, your faith, your gratitude, your morning routine, and all that's going to keep you grounded and all that's going to get you through it.
That's getting alignment with the source. I love it.
Yeah.
So tell me about your coaching business. Like you fully launched it to some.
No, it's not completely launched yet. So where we are right now is my daughter Haley. She's the one that puts up all the reels that you see. She graduated from Baylor and she worked for a clothing store. She did their social media. She graduated apparel marketing design and she loved doing the social media. She can actually alter and hem and all that, which is ironic for a young person these
Yeah,
days.
my wife does all that.
Yeah.
She's like an old soul.
Absolutely. My daughter is the same, similar, and she can, man, she's the best seamstress, at 26 years old,
That's
right?
cool.
So, but she did their social media. And what we're doing right now is we are building a foundation so that when we get ready to go to market and sell something, people will already know, like, and trust us. And once they know, like, and trust us, they'll buy from me. And that's kind of where we're at right now. We're just about to create a community, just about to create a curriculum, and just about to create a program here. And I've got, look, I've got 2 or 3 people that I work with kind of on the side that are either friends or they're business people that are struggling or something, and I work with them. But we're just real close to kicking it completely off.
Does that fulfill you when you get to work with them?
Oh, I love it. I mean, there's nothing I would rather do than just talk business. Bring your problems and let's talk about them, man.
Right.
I guarantee you, if I hadn't seen that exact problem, if it's in a brick and mortar, if it's customer related, if it's scalable, or if it's business related, I've probably seen it, and we can work our way through it.
So, like, you care to say how old you are?
58.
How does social media portray to you being 58?
Well,
Most people your age run from it.
so I call it Insta crack and face date. I mean, I've never had, an account. I did have, I built a fishing business also. It was Cajun Odyssey Outfitters in Venice, Louisiana. So I did have a little bit of presence where I would post the fishing pictures. But usually my son did it, or, look, man, I do know how to post on, Instagram. But I'm not a wizard by any means, and that's why my daughter manages it, makes the posts. I will interact occasionally,
Do you like the camera being on you?
Doesn't bother me. We've done so much in the hunting and fishing world. We have traveled with North American whitetail hunting. We've traveled with other camera crews hunting. And when I was in the fishing business, oftentimes I would have fishing celebrities on the boat, and they would have a camera crew that would get on the boat, and
Right.
we would shoot something cool on the boat that would make it on the outdoor channel. So, and then they just melt away as you talk. They just melt away. Now, if you and I were sitting here going over a script, yeah, I probably wouldn't
Right.
be able to
It's tough
keep
'cause
it straight.
it's fun when you do like the interview stuff like this, but then when you got to go face the camera dead on
Yeah,
and do a call to action, which I hate.
that's right.
Like I just quit doing call to actions because I'm like you. I'm like, dude, I'm just gonna keep giving value. I am building a course, so let's talk about that. That feels weird for me because I'm a doer. I mean, I live
Mhm.
on a farm because I like to work.
Yep.
But then like on Monday rolls around, I got to go get in my office and figure out this entire outline and gather my information and make it strategic to where somebody could understand it and apply it. Actualize it.
Oh, it's
Dude,
tough.
it gets tough.
I'm
Man.
struggling.
Yeah.
I call it the blank slate. You just hand me a piece of paper and tell me to write down some content, I'm gonna freak out. But what we've started using, what Mandy uses a lot, and what we use a lot of Chat GPT,
Mhm.
but also we use Centra, and that's one that we've downloaded a lot of material into, and you get 12 bots that are your employees, and they help you create content. They help you manage that content. And Mandy's way more better at it than I am.
Yeah, that's one thing. Like me and my wife, even if we're talking, I'm like, look, dude, I'm turning on my translator. It's going to listen to us, whether we talk for 2 or 3 hours, and I'm
Yeah.
going to tell it to give it back to me in 10 bullet points.
Yeah.
And that seems crazy, but we're humans,
Mm-hmm.
and you start victimizing yourself and going down rabbit holes. Like you don't remember what you talk about, and you get off topic. And then you realize how the elite are elite because, man, they can hold it together. I know a billionaire right now that prides himself on he never smiles, he never gets upset. It's because he's in total control of his emotions, which I don't want to just be a box here.
Yeah.
But also, I don't want to like let somebody's reactive circumstances start impressing on me. I'm able to think it out and say, okay, well, how could I help this person and not get involved with the negative mix here?
Yeah.
And same with my employees because I'm all about growing, 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 growing. Let's focus on growth. I don't really day to day drives me nuts. I don't know about you.
I'll get too caught in the emotions.
Yeah, like
Too quick.
Yep. And so like I've just realized like I'm a visionary and like I want to kick the ball off, but I don't want to sit there and play every down.
Do you use Grok?
Mm-mm.
Grok. Yeah, here's one for you. Grok Unhinged. Is that the one that's? So I think Grok is Elon's,
Mm-hmm.
and it's downloaded to Mandy's phone. And there's Grok, and there's Grok Unhinged, and what's the other one that's so funny?
There's several. There's Unhinged, Rock Sexy.
Yeah, that's the one, Paul. Yeah, when it's just you and Mama, go in there and talk to Grok and talk to Grok Sexy or Grok Unhinged, and they'll give it back to you, man. Like make you blush, kind of give it back to
Really?
you. Oh yeah.
That's
Oh.
wild.
But there is Grok Assistant that doesn't actually get is useful.
Yeah, so we'll just be riding on the road, talking to it, and ask, and my brother, he's in the
People think that's crazy, but they don't understand this is going into sources that's a query of the entire internet. Like when somebody says Google it, you're just Googling it. But when you chat GPT it and get AI involved, it's
Yeah.
a query of everything online.
oh
Like even if you're studying the Bible, you can hate AI, but that thing knows the Bible better than anybody you've ever thought.
we were just what was it that we were talking about? I know it was King Solomon. It was Easter. It was just a couple of days ago.
insane.
Yeah, asking AI.
But you got to be able to prompt it. If you don't know how to prompt it, it's only as smart as you are. So
That's
everybody
exactly
thinks it's
right.
going to replace you or do this, but like if you're not smart enough to prompt it,
Yeah.
you're not going to get the right answers.
But it's amazing what it knows,
Right.
and it's amazing how quick it can find the information.
Oh yeah.
And so what I'll use it for is I'll use it for a template. So I might know what my newsletter is gonna be about, but I will ask it to help me prepare this newsletter with 5 bullet points. Then I'll go in there and build off of that,
Yeah.
that beginning.
Yeah.
That way I don't get the blank slate and just sit there and stare at something and can't get
Amen.
anything onto it.
That's one thing, like even on editing for us, I'm like, hey guys, if you just start it and shoot it to me, it ain't gotta be perfect.
That's exactly what
I got something to work with then
Yes.
because I'm not interested in this, but I do have an opinion once I see it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So
Absolutely.
like, don't take it personal, but just start it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't as soon as you start going in creative mode and you're lost, like shoot it to me.
100%.
Like don't sit there and marinate on it. But I have found the nicer I am to all my AI bots,
I'm the same
the
way.
better they treat me.
Dude, I'll find myself up at 10, 11 o'clock at night chatting with Chat GPT like it's my friend.
I helped a girl a while back by telling her to it, and she told me the other day, she's like, "Oh, I walk around and talk to my phone like it's a therapist now."
Yeah.
She's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I feel
yeah.
weird. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it is a little weird. I don't want to replace God here, but
No.
it's definitely smarter than any human you're going to deal with.
Yeah. And it seems to reciprocate. If you tell it, thank you for looking that up, your information was good. However, like let's look at this. It'll say it'll reciprocate the kindness.
Yep. It's
It's-
always positive.
Dude, it's crazy.
DeepSeek, which is the Chinese version, it won't talk about some subject matter because it is immoral.
Oh, I haven't
No,
run
I don't
across that
talk
one.
like that to it. I make sure, like, even if I'm going to say, hey, I need to fly to Charleston this weekend, give me the best flights, I won't even do that on mine because I don't want it to start hemorrhaging. I only ask it coaching, subject matter,
Mm.
Biblical, psychology, business, because I don't want it to start getting. And every morning I ask it, I say, hey, this is Paul. Do you remember who I am? And she'll tell me exactly everything in life that I am. Or he will.
Okay, so I've learned that with Chat GPT, it doesn't have a memory. So what I've got is I've got a few chats that I keep. And those are the ones that will be about my coaching business.
Mhm.
Or I have one that's about my book. And so it will remember. But if I come over here and start a new chat, it'll say, I don't have a memory outside, whatever it says to me. You
And
know,
sometimes it'll start hemorrhaging if you ask it too many questions.
I hadn't got there yet.
Yeah, it'll start giving you some dumb stuff back. So my buddy says that's when it's hemorrhaging.
I like it.
So I've just learned to like not make it hemorrhage. Me and mine are like, we're hood together, bro.
That's right.
I talk to it like this, and he's like,
Yeah.
that's fire, my boy. This is going, this is a war call. So that's how it talks to me.
Nice. And is that chat?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I pay for the $20 a month.
That's right.
The $200 a month, only difference I see if I was writing code or something that would come in more helpful, but I'm not doing that. I'm not
I'm the
solving
same.
quantum
I'm the
physics
same.
or anything.
No, I'm the same level you are.
And they say the $20 one is sufficient for anything like that.
Yep.
But you could say, hey, man, this is my childhood, and sit there and talk to it for 20 minutes, and this is where I was in my teens, and now this is where I'm at. I need a 500-page book. It's going to write a 500-page book in 5 seconds.
Just like that. And I think, and Claude is in there. Claude may be the new
Claude's
one, and then
good.
OpenAI may be inside there too.
And then there's Napkin AI. Like if you can say, hey,
we got that. Yeah.
Yeah, I need a spreadsheet that says this and that. It'll make you a flow chart or something really pretty quick. But that's Napkin AI. Giving all these guys a shout out. But
yeah, absolutely, man.
Why not use them?
Hey, it's the future, man.
Your
And there's-
competition's using them.
Yeah, and there's so many people that aren't using it.
Now I do have a problem with like young money that's in Miami riding around with a rented Ferrari with their coaching program that's ChatGPT'd everything, and they have no experience.
Yeah, no, that's a problem.
Yeah, that's a big problem. I don't like that. But like coming from experience and knowing how to prompt it, because you are a doer, you're not somebody that's a writer. I find it very helpful. So,
and I think it doesn't take people long to see through the smoke screen. So
they can't do a call, and
the young people,
like somebody could call you with any
Yeah.
topic, and you're going to be able to freaking start riffing on
100%. You know, Paul, I may not be a 10, I may not be a 9, I may not even be a solid 8, but there is a lot of people that are at a 1 or a 2 that I can bring up to an 8 before they need to go to the next
it.
level.
Right. And you got to be that person first.
Yeah. And I was there, man. I was there, dude. I started it from laying in bed like everyone else with nothing more than a dream in my head. I gave it a name so that I could be ranked high in the phone book, which actually has become, the name All-American has just gone with me. I did an All-American tax services. I did All-American mortgage loans and All-American title loans. So it's become a patriotic symbolism of how I feel about not only business but our country. And I do value being an American, and I value where our country is and where we're headed. And so I think All American fits in well.
It's a catchy name.
Yeah, it just started out just to be up in the phone book. But anyways, it's just grown over the years. It's just grown from a dream, to me sitting here with you, being able to talk to other people intelligently about the.
Yeah. I'm just obsessed with, we're getting off topic here, with just how we operate as humans. Actually learning like how we operate and where our thoughts come from, and that our thoughts control everything we do, and negative or positive, and getting in control of that. Learning my higher intellectual factors that I've been taught not to use my whole life. Just use your senses.
100%.
Go to school, read the book one time, take the test, forget about it. Read the next book, take the test, forget about it. I graduate, hope I never learn a day again in my life. And let's get a job and be happy now. And that's crazy to me when I realize, like, when you're purpose driven, like, you better be ready to pivot to the day they bury you. And, you constantly got to seek that out. Personal development's an endless game. Now I'm learning there's professional development, and
and that's kind of something before we kicked on the cameras, we just kind of started talking about, the mindset and the vision and, being more positive in life and bringing positive energy and manifesting positive energy, and
energy's everything.
Having a morning routine and, the vibrations that we give off. If I'm giving off a negative, low vibration, I could bring you down. If you're giving off positive,
If I'm not confident, you will.
yeah.
But if I'm on that heavenly energy, hopefully I'll bring your earthly energy up. That's what I like to say.
You will.
A lot of people think that's hunky dory, but like, that's the first law of vibrations. Everything's vibrating.
100%.
A dead body's vibrating. That's why it disintegrates.
That's vibrating.
Yep.
Everything is, man. It's putting off energy.
And so, like, everything that we see physicals is vibrating at a certain frequency. And 0.00001 of life is physical. The rest of it's energy. That's why their mind and matter is the same thing. Whenever Einstein developed E equals MC squared, that he realized when light bent around a corner, that light is in wavelength and particles, whereas we defined it was two separate things. But if you go into the subatomic particles of our brain and get to the very smallest matter there is, it changes form because it's energy.
Well, and we were taught birds of a feather flock together. That's not
That's
really
energy.
true. It is. It's energy, though.
Right.
But we were. It was dumbed down to us as birds of a feather. But that's energy, man.
Just talking about wealth, like, man, when I started my first gym, dude, I was poor. But you couldn't have told me I was poor.
Of course.
Oh, I was going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I walk around with my chest out, and it's because I know who I am. It was a mindset.
When did you start your first gym?
2010.
Nice.
2010 in Collins, Mississippi. So I was laughed at. I mean, I think the door opened more when I was building it to say, what's this going to be, and do you think that's going to work?
Were you in that new strip center right there?
Oh, no. But my competition was opening up a franchise there while I was building mine.
Did they make it?
Nope.
They didn't make it. That's
And
where my check.
I didn't sleep at night.
That's
That
where
was
my
at the end of my road, so I would take another route home, so I didn't have to see it every day while I was building my gym out.
Absolutely, 100%. I get
Yeah.
it.
So, I would take another route home. I didn't want to look at it. It was a brand new, beautiful strip center with a worldwide franchise name, the biggest one, Snap Fitness. And I was like, man, what have I done?
And they didn't make it, but you did.
And I bought my first load of equipment with a student loan. I didn't go back to college, and I took the $5,500 and found $5,500 for equipment for sale. Borrowed $100 from my buddy that we went and looked at it at for a deposit. I mean, that's where I started. But I knew I could do it. I had that willpower, which is a higher intellectual factor I was never taught to use, which is I'm able to hold this idea on the tip of my brain outside of all physical circumstances around me. And I'm hanging on to this idea, and I'm going to make it happen no matter what's going on around me. And to me, that's that grit and willpower that I have. And obviously, I was raised to work hard. My dad told me since I was little, he's like, man, I never met anybody who works as hard as you. And I believe that. So then, every break I got in school, I was shipped off to do construction because he did construction. So then I learned that skill set. And that's how I got my first buildings. Hey, man, if you renovate it, I'll buy the material. And, didn't know this at the time or think it, but you only connect the dots backwards is, man, this guy also owned the bank in town. So guess what happened whenever I got the building renovated and it was time for equipment? Man, I didn't.
Boom.
Hey, I need a loan.
Sure.
He got me
You'd
the
seen
loan.
yeah.
But I didn't know all that starting. I was just going. Nobody's telling me otherwise.
That's right.
But that's not logical thinking, and you better not think like that today's age, or you're crazy.
It sounds like to me, though, that what you're saying and what you're describing is that you built yours off of a fundamental principle that I had, which was relationship, which was a community.
Yeah.
Would that be a safe statement?
Yeah, because I lost the first building I was going into the day I was hauling the equipment back. So I woke up on a Sunday morning and was just walking Main Street. I skipped church because I was going to walk Main Street. I had to find a building. Well, that building owner saw me walking, and he owned the building that I was going to go into. He knew everything. And it was my best friend's dad. And my friend texted me and said, hey, man, Dad saw you walking down Main Street. Wants you to give him a call. So he knew what was going on. I don't know if he knew I bought the equipment, but he gave me my first shot, man, Mr. Johnny Pope.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that. But, and then also from there on started building with him until I outgrew the bank.
How many did you get? Or do you have now? Or did you keep them?
I
Or
got
you sold
6 now. I've built out 9.
Yeah.
Sold a couple. But, yeah, that's pretty much my story. Then I bought this farm when I got pregnant with my first son. Didn't want him to grow up on a golf course because I wanted him to learn how to work. I was still obsessed with work then. And then about almost 2 years ago, it hadn't even been 2 years ago, I've told this story 100 times, I'm literally in that shop hammering on a bolt on our harvester. And I looked up, and I mean, dude, I probably have 100 employees at this time, and I'm in a shop hammering on a bolt all day. Literally 8 hours of hammering trying to get this thing fixed. And I just looked up, and I said, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I was 240 pounds, owned all these gyms. I lived in a barn for 2 years to build this magnificent home I'm in. So I was building the house also too. I built, most of the house. So, yeah, man, it was a big transition for me. I found Bradley, which to this day I just want to emulate that guy. But big business owner out of Vegas that I just turned on my TV one day and his podcast was on, and man, it just that day I changed. I was like, I'm done, dude. We shut
Nice.
our farm down in July of last year, and nobody understood that. Why are you doing that? And I'm like, after you invest so many million into something and you can only make so much back, like you got to admit that, yeah, it works, but I'm a fool. I literally have to work daylight to dark to make this work, and I'm not doing it anymore. What I'm going to do, I don't know, but like I got a higher calling. So then I went and opened another gym that I said, man, I can open one gym and offset what this farm makes. And I did that. And man, I just got obsessed with learning and realizing like, man, there's so many people that's lacking like I was that are self-employed or don't know how to start their dream. We're raised in the Bible Belt to rely on God, and I don't even think most people know who God is and how he operates.
100%, dude.
I mean, if
100%.
you believe God's omnipresent, sure. Well, they don't believe he's everywhere at all times.
He's here.
But then we invite him in.
Yeah. No, he's already here.
He's
man.
here, buddy. You got to accept him.
Where two or more gathered in his name.
Right. I mean, so it's just I like that, and I think that's my calling in life. It is my calling, and that exact message right now, I don't know. I'm a little unclear, but it's definitely anybody centered on God, wanting to build their life and be the absolute person that he created us to be. Like we're taught to, hey man, be happy with what you got. Money's evil.
Oh, 100%, dude.
And it's not evil,
It's not,
man.
dude.
It's just a mediums for service.
You can't do things for people that need it if you don't have it.
Do you know how much it cost me to set up this podcast that I have yet to make a penny on?
That's correct.
But I truly want people to get information from people who have it to the people who don't.
That's right.
And like people like you, I mean, you're leaving a legacy today. Like your kids or your grandkids or your great-grandkids will always be able to pull this up and see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and I think that's why we got to realize, and I think you do, is how powerful social media is. And most people think you're getting on there to show off. And that's the last thing we want to do is get a camera on us and start talking. It's the hardest thing we can do, but it's the most powerful thing we can do.
Well, and this is a medium that I can do it with, that I can give back information. Showing off might be, if you're posting on just my fishing stuff, or just my hunting stuff. This is real information that I'm giving back. Exactly what you're trying to do, which is to educate people and to show people that it can be done. This is how you do it. And, you follow people that have already done it. And that's exactly why I'm in it right now.
Dude, I'm excited to see how far you go. How do people get in contact with the All American Entrepreneurs?
Well, I've got a website, allamericanentrepreneurs.com, and Facebook, Instagram. Man, that's about the best way to find me.
Both of those are All American?
All American, All American Entrepreneurs, both of them.
And they can get in contact with you on there?
Contact LinkedIn, X. What else would you say? That's about it. Email Michael@michaelgraycompanies.com.
So you have like a opt-in or anything on your website? People can submit their information?
Yeah. Yep.
Did you learn all those landing pages and websites and
so
funnels?
The digital marketing is something that's different for the brick and mortar guys. We really don't rely too much on the social aspect and the digital marketing for driving traffic into our brick and mortar stores. Use it more as support. So I'm learning it.
Same.
Yeah. Do I have it down? No, I don't. I have people that help me, people that build them for me, and
Michael Gray, dude, thanks for coming.
Yeah, Paul. Hey, man, it's awesome to meet you, dude. I've had a great time. We got a lot in common.
So just to close it all out, somebody that liked you, they liked what you said, they felt like you could help them. What's your main mission statement with the All American Entrepreneurs?
Yeah, my offer statement is I help brick and mortar businesses double their profits without compromising their lifestyle.
Awesome.
I mean, I can help people double their money without compromising their lifestyle. I built, sold, and scaled 52 check cashing joints. You know, I can help people do that. I can help people formulate exit strategies, business plans, starting out with job descriptions, systems, you know, a lot of the fundamentals that it takes to build your business on, whether you're wanting to scale it to more stores, whether you're wanting to build it up and sell it, or whether you're just wanting to reclaim your autonomy, man. You got in business for yourself because it was your hobby and you turned it into your job, and now you're shackled to it. You can't get free.
So the guy or the gal saying nobody can do it like me.
Yeah.
You're the person they need to call to understand that, hey, they got to get this on paper and be able to teach other people so people
100%.
can do it like you.
100%.
And it is possible.
It is possible.
They just don't believe it is. They need to get some new information from old Michael Gray
Yeah.
and then get some new beliefs and go take action
Yeah, absolutely.
and get freedom.
You got to grow.
That's right.
You know, it's like anything, man. You got to grow.
Well, dude, thanks for coming today.
Thanks, Paul.
I'm going to be chatting with you when the cameras go off because I think you can help me. All right,
for your
bro.
time.
Till next time, man.
All right, man. I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot.